We are live. Hello. It's Owen Briggs, me, with Starbelly Astrology, coming to you live on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon, night, or whatever it is. Yes, we've got a wonderful show lined up for you today. We have number one, Frank, pseudonymous name, from New Jersey, asking about girl troubles, social troubles, that kind of thing. And then I'm going to tell you something else. I've got a sale on. If you go to the link in the description, email me for the next week. Readings are $150 instead of $200, $50 off. Book now, and you'll get the discount no matter when it happens, just as long as you book in the next week. Moving on. Frank, Mr. Frank Marilla from New Jersey. So, basically, Frank here, Celtic Thunder, says Micro Preemie. That's right, it's me in my Celtic wonderful outfit here, because I'm cold today. It's very unfortunate. In any case, Mr. Frank, born 2005. He is only 20 years old, ladies and gentlemen. So, despite being good looking, says Frank, I have great trouble speaking to women or being sincere in communicating what I want to people, what I want to communicate. I often alternate between wanting to be alone and, inversely, wanting a relationship. How do you see this reflected in my chart? More importantly, how do I fix my issue with women by leaning into the potentialities inherent in my chart? I would be happy to tell you, Dante. He's included a pretty large quantity of concrete information, stories, details about his problems that I will get into as the matter demands. But for now, it's his chart. Dante is a Taurus sun. Dante is a lover of man and woman. He is a man of peace. He is a man of rest and relaxation and leisure. And he's got his moon in Virgo over there, so he likes to get into a problem, get into the nuts and bolts, take it apart, and fix it. So what else have we got here? And indeed, what's more important? What are the most important planets and factors that we want to look at in answering a question such as this? Well, we're going to look first at the Venus and what that's doing, and then at the seventh house and what's that doing, what that's doing. So to begin with, the Venus is in Gemini. He's a talkative, witty character. He's articulate, good at communicating. This is your Venus Gemini. I am Venus Gemini. He is also a Jupiter Libra rising. So all of the air signs, they're pro-social, they get along with people. Long story short, as a diversion here, I'm going to say your Jupiter sign, what Jupiter is doing in your chart, tells you what you're going to have teachers come into your life, teaching you things to do with anything that that Jupiter is connected to. So Frank here has Jupiter in Libra. Libra is interpersonal skills. He's got Jupiter making a trine to Venus. Venus is also interpersonal skills. They're related. Venus rules Libra. And so here I am teaching him how to talk to people. So yeah, basically we're looking at the Venus and we're looking for difficulties with Venus as well. So he's got a square to Venus. Square to Venus will mean social difficulties. Mars in Pisces, conjunct Uranus, is squaring his Venus. Pisces is going to create shyness. And not only that, it's going to create circumstances in which one is obliged to be shy because one doesn't really know what the rules are. One doesn't know what the boundaries are, what's expected of one, that kind of thing. So when you've got Pisces combined with Gemini, again, on top of that, you get a third thing. You get a fusion of those two signs. So it is something that is at once perfectly Geminian, Gemini-like. It is clear, comprehensible, communicative, that kind of thing. It has a, you know what to make of it. And then on the other side, you've got this Pisces wink, wink, nudge, nudge, if you know, kind of implicit thing going on. So what this means, when you've got your Gemini, any planet, but Venus here is particularly important. When you've got your Gemini square Pisces, like me, you're going to be communicating always on two levels. With Pisces, it's just a wink, it's pure context. But with Gemini added in there, you also need to be communicating on the most explicit and obvious level. So this is all to say, long story short, you're going to get into circumstances where you're having one conversation that is totally clear and explicit and comprehensible to all involved, to any onlooker. It's going to make sense to them. And this is something you're going to come up against again and again, Frank. I know it's something I come up against all the time. So yeah, you've got one Gemini conversation occurring in a clear and explicit way, and then you've got the Pisces wink wink nudge nudge subterranean weirdness going on beneath it. So this weirdness is always going to be a part of your life. And the challenge for you, Frank, is going to be learning to navigate it, learning to ride the wave, as it were, because that's what Pisces is about. You get these momentary opportunities, you have to grasp them. If you miss the boat, then you've missed the boat, and nobody's going to make it exactly completely clear to you. You need to learn to trust your instincts. And you need to learn also to trust your instincts over and above, or with the Gemini, rather, in addition to the explicit conversation that's happening. So people are going to be, okay, it's back and forth, we're talking, we're having a regular exchange, but there's going to be little secret messages slipped in there that you're going to have to decode and comprehend and act on lickety split mid conversation before it's going to make any sense. So we're going to get more into some of your specific difficulties now. Mr. Frank, Marilla from New Jersey, says, I am afraid of rejection and subsequent humiliation. I'm afraid of being vulnerable with people, my awkward sociability. I freeze up in conversation. Rudd says he's watching in the car. Thank you, viewer Rudd. I freeze up in conversation. I have to think very hard about what to say, and the opportunity passes before I am ready to say anything. This is exactly what I said. You say you have to think hard. You should think a little less. This is the challenge with Pisces, and this is the challenge for me as well, because I'm speaking from experience here. You have to learn to think a little less and to get the big picture instead of getting lost in the details and the reads and, oh, did he mean that? Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. You have to develop your instincts. You have to learn to trust your instincts. So, the opportunity passes before I, Frank Marilla, am ready to say anything. This produces neurotic behavior, i.e., looking at my phone or hiding away in bathrooms and empty spaces to avoid interaction. Textbook Pisces. In the past, I smoked weed to cope and hoped it would make me more sociable. This only deepened the neuroticism. Well, it often does. Weed is not a solution to much in the long run. If you need it to calm your nerves, and if you haven't found a better way of doing it, go for walks. Going for walks is a great way to calm your nerves and it's medicine. Walking is medicine. But man, if you're just coping and if weed's there and if it's helping you more than it's hurting you for the time being, that's fine. But it's never going to be a long-term solution to anything, especially not your paranoias. Anxious, paranoid potheads is a cliche as old as time. So yeah, yeah, you need to have that comfort, but you do need to branch out as well. You do need to push yourself outside your comfort zone and stop having to use drugs as a crutch. Now, if you need it, okay, you're a human being. You're not going to manage every problem in the perfect way from the get-go, but you want to be aiming to get off it and to get rid of that stuff. You know, I personally like to force myself into very uncomfortable social situations as just a challenge. But that's me. That's your Scorpio there. I'm a Scorpio. You don't have any Scorpio. You're Mr. Libra. You're Mr. Taurus. You're concerned with keeping it real, taking it easy, that kind of thing. So it's going to look different for you. But with that Mars in Pisces making a square to that Venus, Mars plus Venus, especially with a hard aspect to square, is going to make things tumultuous, jumpy, bumpy, lumpy, whatever. And socializing and relaxing for you are going to be very active processes. So you just have to sign up for that from the get-go. And I will also say you've got Saturn in Cancer. That can create some social awkwardness and difficulties because you're a very sensitive guy. You've got a great deal of resilience. You know, that's Cancer. They've got their shell, they've got their little attachment points and their security blankets that can be very good for them. Trump is a Saturn Cancer, and you know, he is certainly not shy in any sense, whatever else you think of him. So yeah, Saturn Cancer also, yeah, you can deal with a bit of inherent shyness, but you know, this is just a skill to be developed. This is just a muscle to be flexed and worked out. And if you are just pushing yourself out there again and again and again, just in the littlest way that you can, but rather in the biggest way that you can, even if that's little, you're going to be making definite progress. And let me tell you, even if you are somebody who is very socially anxious, you know, that is only to say that you care very deeply about socializing with others, you care very deeply about your social skills, and that means that you can develop them to a very high level. It's just a matter of time and effort, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. And in that vein, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone by traveling is always a great way to develop your social skills. I mean, there's other things. Let me say right now, I mean, you know, if you have a gun or something, yeah, you know, this is very sudden, I know, but if you have a gun or something, if you know how to look after yourself, how to defend yourself, this is something very, very important to cancers, I've observed. You know, it's the classic boomer, Second Amendment, open carry everywhere type guy. You know, I mean, you're in America, so this is an option for you to some extent. Maybe not open carry in New Jersey. I don't know the laws there, but you can have a gun. You can develop skills with a gun, and that's going to make you feel better about yourself. You know, full stop. When you can defend yourself, you're going to feel more secure in general. Whether or not you want to use it, whether or not you think it's a good idea, or you love guns, or you hate them, or whatever, if you can defend yourself as a Cancer, anything, Saturn, Sun, Moon, whatever, you're going to feel better. And you're going to find it easier to be confident in any situation. So it's really just, yeah, testing yourself, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, improving your capacity to defend yourself in a real way, not doing that fake ass Brazilian jiu-jitsu crap that has no application in any setting outside of just scamming people out of their money to teach them BJJ or participating in stupid competitions with people who do BJJ, that kind of thing. Sorry to, you know, Brazilian jiu-jitsu there, but it sucks and don't get sucked in, you know, unless you genuinely like it, I guess, but don't confuse it with a real combat skill. Combat skills will improve your confidence. I'll leave that there. So anyway, we'll go back to you, Mr. Frank. I hope I haven't used your real name, but if I have, it doesn't matter because nobody's keeping track. In any case, I will continue to use your pseudonym, Frank. While at my last job, says Frank, I would have plenty of downtime, and instead of trying to talk to people, I would sit by myself, scrolling on my phone or listening to music or something like that. Well, once again, if you don't use the muscle, it's not going to get stronger. But you can, and it will. I was very shy. I was very shy. There was even a point in my life in high school after my dad died where I could not talk to people without just bursting into tears. It was very difficult for me. It was only after years of brutally forcing myself to talk to people, forcing myself violently outside my comfort zone. I mean, you know, not in a way that bothered anyone else, I hope, but you know, just in ways that were difficult for me. You know, it's only then that I really developed the capacity to do what I'm doing now. You know, again, I could not talk to somebody at all without bursting into tears. For that brief period. That was a very brief period. That was a very intense period. This is not something I, you know, I'm voluble in other ways, of course. One has to have a bit of that and be born with it to do what I'm currently doing. But you know, you, Frank, have that. You've got the Gemini, you've got the Libra, you've got the Taurus, your Venus signs, Taurus and Libra, your mercurial signs, Gemini and stuff. You can be a very talkative fella. You can be a very sociable fella. So what I'm telling you is there's a lot of room to grow. As long as you keep working at it, you've already displayed this self-awareness, you know, you've already displayed this self-awareness about how you're wasting opportunities. Stop wasting opportunities. Get out there, even if it's just a conversation with the cashier at the grocery or something, just do little bitty things every day, one bit at a time, and you'll make progress. And you won't even notice because it will occur so slowly, but it will be stable, heavy, real progress with each little interaction that you have. So there's some interesting things here. Okay, Frank says, I feel mechanical in every action. I go to the same gas station multiple times a week to buy cigarettes, see the same clerks, and repeat the same line without variation, and then stand there saying nothing while the transaction processes. Well, again, Frank, you just have to expand your range. That's it. Number two, Frank says, women online speak and interact with me, and I desire to pursue a relationship with them in the real world, yet I cannot bring myself to say this to them. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, Frank, because many people, there are so many ideas about what one is meant to be able to do with women and what one should do with women. And it's like nobody's going to force you to talk to them. I think that the idea of just randomly approaching, I mean, I'll be frank, if anyone could do it, it's you. This is what Gemini Pisces is good at, is just random approaching people out of the blue and having an interaction, that kind of thing. If anyone could learn that skill, ultimately it's you. And that's why I suggest you go traveling, because this is going to force you to deal with people in ways that you do not expect to have to deal with them. Because in the process of really traveling, not taking a package tour or something, you are going to just encounter circumstances you did not plan for. And that's where the real fun begins. That's where the real fun begins. That's why you travel. Okay, going somewhere is nice, but really being forced outside your comfort zone and being forced to develop, that's the real reason you do it. And this is the funny thing with Pisces. Pisces, like Sagittarius, is built to basically uh, have lots of weird, disconnected, unrelated interactions and to build knowledge. Not to have connections left over necessarily, but to have knowledge and experience that it can then bring to other situations. And because it's so experienced, its skills will make it look like a wizard or something like that. This is Jupiter, this is your Sag, your Pisces, it's the wizard. It's magic. It's like, you look back in the 2010s, Neptune Pisces era, 2012 to 2026 or so. It was all hacks, life hacks. It's these tricks, it's these weird little magic tricks. This is what Pisces is about. You develop these tricks, you have these weird experiences, and then, the other side of Jupiter for Sag and for Pisces, you'll see this, is you just get the hell out of Dodge. You go to a new place, you go to a new setting. It's like speed dating or something like that. You talk to one person for 5 minutes, go on to the next one, go on to the next one, never see any of them again. You learn something each time that you can bring to the following interaction. This is what you do. So, yeah, it's like, and let me tell you, sometimes, you're a young guy, so you don't know this yet. And it's just something I'm still learning as well. But here's what I seem to have figured out. You know, if you feel like you can't say something to a woman, maybe you're not meant to. You're not really meant to force things. If you want to do something, do it and get it done and get it out of your system. But this whole idea that one should be able to walk up to a random girl on the street if you like her, and ask her for a date or something is just odd. It's just odd. It's something that plays well on TV, but it's like, no. This is an interesting thing as well. Gemini square Pisces, your network, your social life is going to be weird and decontextualized. You you're not going to have the usual precepts and protocols and norms and conventions to deal with. There is going to be, thanks to Pisces, a note of improvisation in all of your interactions. Yeah, you can go to the store, you can do normal stuff like that. I'm not saying it's 24/7, but pretty regularly you're going to be thrown into situations where socially you have to improvise. You have to take things a certain way. You have to act like a certain thing is normal. And as another general piece of advice, I would say that, hmm, I've completely forgotten. Hopefully I remember. I'm going to come back to that later. Maybe it'll come back up as I read this. So yeah, Mr. Frank Marilla says, I have a social life and friends, but I don't ever talk about my real interests with them. I feel like a broken wheel being dragged along the road. I am just there, kind of hanging on without any sense of agency. Again, if you can recognize this, you can change it. If you want more agency, you can take it. It's not going to be clean, it's not going to be easy necessarily, but there is always at least one thing you can do in any situation to take more control and to test yourself and to push yourself further and to learn these skills better. So, yeah, if you don't ever talk about your real interests with them, how can you call them your friends? I understand there's such a thing as a polite interaction, but at some point you have to get real. And it's in your chart as well. You've got the ruler of your 11th house of friends and your 8th house of like weird taboo underground stuff. You just have to be a bit more open about yourself in general. You have to find people you can trust. You have to find settings in which you can open up. And I know it's easier said than done, but I'm just telling you what to be on the lookout for. And it will come. It will come in time. So, yeah, in high school, says Frank, I was practically wholly, completely silent. I sat next to girls I was interested in, but I could not bring myself to talk with them. Tell me about it. I was a passive observer, that's textbook Pisces, wanting to join the fun, yet feeling inadequate and incapable. And this, I have just remembered what I meant to tell you 2 or 3 minutes ago. In any interaction, as long as you basically act like things are normal, like I just did, bada bing, bada boom, wow, things will be fine. If you make a mistake, if you stumble, it only matters if you keep stumbling and if you think about it and if you obsess over it. You just need to get over it and move on and act like everything's normal, maybe give a wink to the audience, that kind of thing. But, as I've just proven, it is not the end of the world if you mess something up. It is not the end of the world if you, again, falter or stumble. You just keep going and demonstrate that you have the inherent confidence and the knowledge in what you're doing to continue. That is true socially, that is true with public speaking or with playing a musical instrument or something like that. You should learn to play a musical instrument if you can't already. And that reminds me of something else that you said to me later in our email chain, in our email exchange. And any of you are welcome to email me. I love hearing from you. And if you want to buy a reading, they're on discount this week. Wow, that's the last time I'll mention this. For $50 off, $150 instead of $200, it's an hour-long phone call, and you get to talk to me, Owen Briggs, for 1 hour about your chart and about any other questions you may have. It's an excellent deal. In any case, so you want to tell your parents that you are an artist. You are embarrassed about this. You are shy about this. This is your Saturn Cancer. You've got your deep passions. You are never going to fit in a standard way. Same with Saturn Aries or Saturn Leo, these weird Saturns. You are never going to fit in a standard way, but you are going to fit in by bringing those deep interests and passions out of yourself and exposing them to the public one bit at a time. Believe me, I know what it's like. I know what it's like. I am something of an artist myself. I never got the feedback or recognition I felt I deserved for my art. It wasn't the end of the world. It was very sad. It was very sad. But I got over it. And if I had never have tried, I would never have resolved the question. This is an easy thing to do for Pisces, particularly for Pisces, is just to leave things in this state of indecision. Again, you look 2010s, Neptune Pisces era, the situationship, that kind of thing. You don't ever really call it what it is. You don't ever really call it something else. It never fully blossoms. And I understand that as a Pisces, Mars Pisces, whenever somebody has any planet in a sign, I call them that sign. It's easier. It makes sense. Run with me. So, yeah, as a Pisces, you're going to have to sometimes keep things on the down low. You're going to have to keep things under the radar until you have the right moment to seize your chance. And this is what I was saying earlier about surfing, seizing your opportunity, recognizing opportunities, and trusting yourself as a skill that you need to develop. So, yeah, going back to Mr. Frank's letter here, my parents constantly ask me what I want to do with my life. I know that I am an artist. This is your Saturn Cancer, deep certainty about what you are. But rather than admitting the simple truth, I tell them I do not know. And we got a message here. As a Merc Sag, sometimes my life feels like a succession of subplots not linked up to each other. It has good sides, though. Yeah, that's your Sag, that's your Pisces. And what you're building in there is not something external. It is you. It is your own social skills. It is your own person, your own personality, your individuality. And that's very important. It's equally valuable to any external thing. External things pass away. They should ultimately serve the spirit and the internal self. So yeah, you do not tell your parents that you want to be an artist. Frank says, I'm afraid that they will think me a fool or a failure or an idiot. Afraid nobody will respect me. You know, Frank, you have something to give. You have something to give. You have these impulses for a reason. They did not come from nowhere. You were born with them. They came from the spiritual world, I would say. That's my personal opinion and my best understanding of what the reality is. Nothing is arbitrary. You did not come with these desires merely to repress them, to hide them. You know, do not hide your light under a bushel, is the famous old phrase. Don't hide your talents. Don't bury your talents. Bring them up, use them, or somebody else will get the opportunities that were meant for you. You know, and this is not some manifestation crap. I hate that stuff. It's completely vulgar and stupid. This is just a fact. You know, you have to put in the work. You have to put yourself out there, or other people are going to get the opportunities that you wanted. And you've got Saturn in the 10th house, like me. You know, you can build a career. You are meant to be out in public in some capacity. You could be working for someone else, helping someone else. You may have some unique talent. You know, I'm just going to go back into the astrology, and you know, you do have some unique talent. You have a unique aesthetic sensibility. That is your Venus aesthetic sensibilities, square Uranus, unique and cannot be reproduced ever again by anyone. You have something unique to offer. But I will go into your chart a bit. So you've got Saturn Cancer. The ruler of Cancer is the moon, so that's going to tell you where all of that Cancer-like force and energy and enthusiasm is going. It's going into moon Virgo. Virgo is orderly. You're somebody who's genuinely passionate about order, details, that kind of thing. Details really more than order per se. Then you've got that moon Virgo ruled by Mercury in Taurus. And Taurus is, of course, an aesthetic sign. When you put Virgo together with Taurus, you want to think of something like flower arrangement. It is beautiful, it is restful, but it is still precise and meticulously arranged, and so on and so forth. That is your Virgo plus Taurus. And then that Taurus is being ruled by Venus and Gemini, and blah, 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 blah. You may have real talents for arranging art. You know, I mean, what comes to mind when I put all these things together is something like working in Blender, working on CGI, because, you know, Pisces is going to make things more digital and dematerialized. You know, you might think it's Gemini, but it's not. Although when you combine them, it's like, yeah, basically like dematerialized magic cartoons, that kind of thing, cartoon magic. You know, you might discover that you really have a talent for cartooning, or you really have a talent for some kind of art that involves meticulous, painstaking attention to detail that you can do and that not everyone can do, because you have that genuine kind of Cancer limitless enthusiasm funneled into the Virgo attention to detail, and then into the Taurus appreciation for beauty. Okay. So Daniel Crawford asks a pretty interesting question here. Whenever I hear statements like follow your heart and express your unique talents, I always wonder, what if I am someone who loves doing harmful things? That is a very good question, man. I think that you would have to ask what you mean by harmful and in what context it's harmful. Sometimes things need to be broken up so that good things can happen. If you're doing harm to bad things so that good things can come about, that itself can be a good thing. That is why, fundamentally, I am no stranger to hate. You know, I think it is good to hate what is bad, and I think it is good to be open about one's hatreds and one's negative feelings, in a sense, because they're going to be there anyway. And if you're not open about them, you're going to end up some repressed, fearful, hateful person who's got a be nice yard sign in their lawn. You have to be frank about these things and open about these things and in contact with your shadow, as they call it. And while I certainly would not encourage you to hurt anyone, absolutely not, I would say sometimes it happens and it's regrettable, and we may wish to avoid it to the fullest extent possible. But for me, I'm always asking, how can I avoid the greatest possible harm down the road? And that might involve cutting something off at the root before it grows, before it becomes a problem that will be a lot more painful to deal with later. So really, when you talk about harm, I mean, God, obviously, if your true calling, as you feel it, is kidnapping people and torturing them to death, that's messed up. You shouldn't do that. That's very bad. I don't think I need to tell you that. And I think that if that's how you are, me telling you will not make a difference. Don't do that. Won't make a difference to your opinions. But yeah, it's like sometimes by nature, what you want to do is controversial. It's going to involve harming people. I mean, what do I think? I think 99% of astrologers are frauds. And I think very close to 100% of them don't really understand astrology that well. I think that many of them who market themselves as therapists are great therapists. They're great at talking to people. They might not be good at astrology, but they're good at getting people to open up, and they have a talent for healing, which should be appreciated in and of itself, and they deserve full credit for that. But I'm saying 99% of astrologers are crap. They don't know what they're doing. Even again, very close to 100%. And in doing that, when you call out a scammer or when you call out a scam, you're harming their livelihood. But then if they've made their livelihood contingent on scamming people or on presenting themselves as something they're not, that was a risk that they knew they were taking from the beginning. And in any case, even if they weren't fully conscious of that risk, you shouldn't allow people to become scammed. Yeah, there's sort of an edge case where it's like, okay, again, yeah, they don't really know astrology, but they're a talented therapist and they're helping people, and their client is feeling helped and they're feeling good and they're getting paid. And it's like, there's no reason to break that up. I used to be an extremist about these things. I used to be an extremist about the truth. And I still am to a great extent, but I also realize that there are situations where there's no point intervening. Things are healthy, things are pretty stable. You've only got so much energy, you've only got so much you can do with your life. You've got to pick and choose what you're attacking and what you're calling out and what you're doing. Here now I feel I have a calling to engage with astrology and to promote a kind of astrology which will put other astrologers out of business. But I think it's the truth. I think it's the best kind of astrology on offer. Whenever you design a better product or something in any market, you're going to be putting other people with a worse product out of business. It's simply part of doing business. So yeah, you are doing harm in a sense, but hopefully and always you should be asking yourself, and there's some hazard in this, I admit, but you should always be asking yourself whether the harm that you're doing is ultimately worth the good that you're doing as a result. People say things, it's a thought killing cliche. The ends justify the means, the greater good, that kind of thing. You can go a bit nuts with it. But you've got to have both. You've got to have the details, and you've got to have the immediate human factor that's very important, and you've got to have the bigger goal as well. Because if you've only got the details, you're going to get lost in the bigger picture and you're going to get scammed by somebody else who's got a broader view on things and who can work around you and trick you and give you details that aren't really relevant or meaningful. You've got to have the concepts as well as the details. But if you've got just the concepts, that can be inhuman. That can be, oh, I would press a button immediately to kill 2 billion people if it would save 3 billion. There's something about that way of thinking that's not quite right. And you need to pay attention to every part of your body. Your guts, your heart, your mind, all of it has to come together. The human squishy element, the refined mental element, all of that has to come together, and it really can through the medium of love. That is what I would say. So hopefully that answers your question, Daniel. We have another question. From BIC. Can I ask questions talking about my placements in the chat, or do I have to ask a question through your website? I like getting questions through my website. It makes things more orderly for me. I like getting them in the chat too. The only problem with the chat is that, in order to really answer your question, I'm going to need your time, place, and date of birth. If you don't want to share that online, many people would not. It's totally understandable. But I cannot really fully, truly help you unless I have your exact chart with the ascendant, with every detail, because every detail matters. And that's the attention to detail. My attention to detail, that's Gemini. It's a mercurial sign, Mercury and Gemini, Virgo and Mercury and Gemini. They're all about detail. Perfect. So yeah, ask me anywhere, but it's a limitation. If you don't want to share your birth details, I can't help you that much, as much as I could. So share them privately if you wish, with the link below. And I'm doing a sale at the link below. Go to the link. Blah, blah, blah. Won't tell you again. Anyway, so let's go back to Mr. Frank Marilla, although other questions are welcome in the chat. So, Frank says, I've never had a true or lasting relationship with any of the women I've been intimate with. It always ends with them losing interest in me. This is a painful thing for beautiful men, Frank. They want your body, but they don't want your soul. I've been there. I won't go. No further comment. In any case, yeah, it's a sad thing. And again, this is why many interactions with women are just worth avoiding. Not all of them, obviously, but, opening your heart up to somebody is a risky thing. And it's a risk you have to take. As painful as it can be, it's a risk you have to take. But just casually engaging with women, if you're a real romantic like you seem to be, Frank, it's not rewarding. It's not rewarding. I haven't done this myself, but I have a friend who has. He was involved with many women casually, and in the end, it's just, there's nothing here. It's just another body. It doesn't mean anything. That was his feeling. Maybe you'll find something in that of use. So yes, Frank goes on. I have always had a fear of being in public. Despite it lessening over time, and it will continue to lessen, I still am unable to be natural or free in my expression. I tremble, I shake, I become nauseous, my breathing stifles, I cower from myself, says Frank. Well, Frank, to some extent, this is just something that will pass with age. You're a very young man. I, at the age of 20, was socially awkward in many ways. But with time and experience, you develop more of an even keel. You will develop that as time goes on. And again, part of that, you can accelerate that by training, by seeking opportunities to expand your social skills, getting outside your comfort zone, traveling, that kind of thing. But it is, to a great extent, if you decide that you want to work to overcome it, you will overcome it. It is that simple. And it will get better and better with time. And indeed, as I've said, if you're particularly anxious about socializing, this only means that you have to work at it like a skill. And then you can become particularly confident. You will leapfrog the average and you will become exceptional with time, with work, with effort. So look forward to that. I didn't have anyone to tell me that when I was growing up. I just worked and worked and worked, and it paid off. But, it's nice to have that guarantee and that promise. And logically, it makes sense, doesn't it? So, yeah, Frank goes on. Once at a museum, bang, night at the museum, I was sitting alone, reading, and noticed an attractive woman sitting by herself. And I desired to start a conversation with her. Well, Frank, at your age, I had these feelings too. But it is just kind of not really something that happens. In my experience, if it happens for you, good. If you want to try something on and say, look, you want to make sure that you have something that you genuinely want to talk to them about. Because if it's just, it can be creepy if you don't, okay? If you are that kind of guy and you're a genuine romantic who loves art and you want to talk to a beautiful woman about art, you know, they can appreciate that. They can appreciate that. You want to be respectful at all times. And this is still something I'm working on, frankly, just how to talk to people in public. I know some things, I've worked at it. I'm almost 32. But you know, it's just there's no ceiling. There's no ceiling on it. You just have to keep working. Some of that work is going to lead to you concluding that certain things can never and should never happen. Some of that work is going to lead to you developing the skill, and it's going to feel really good. But you know, you have to ask yourself also, to what extent have you just got a fantasy about how things could or would go that is going to disintegrate on contact with reality? And you know, sometimes you just have to find that out by trying it out, which is always really good. You know, I do stupid, weird things to get outside my comfort zone. I went to a dive bar on a Tuesday night when the only people there were alcoholics. I almost got into a fight. The guy thought I was probably either trying to fight him or have sex with him. It was neither. I am just an idiot. And I was just trying to push myself and go to an unusual new setting that I hadn't been to before. And only in retrospect did I realize what I was secretly doing to teach myself in an unconscious way. You know, we do that sometimes, put ourselves, and particularly Pisces, put ourselves into weird situations where we don't quite understand what's happening until we realize, oh, that's what I meant to do. And I thought I was doing X, but it turns out I was doing Y. You know, you have to be willing to reinterpret yourself with time. This is a Pisces thing, particularly. Reinterpret yourself. So, yeah, what do we got? Okay, and Frank goes on. Out of fear, I did not, and I remained sitting, stirring with the desire to speak with her. Fuming, we might say. But, that's fine, you know? Fear is sometimes appropriate. Fear is sometimes sensible, and you can't let it rule your life, but you may be protecting yourself reasonably from something that you should not be involved with. Let me say something else here about your astrology. You've got that Mars in Pisces squaring your Venus. Your Venus is your ascendant lord. So anything connected with your ascendant first house lord, rising sign lord, is going to affect basically your default interface with reality itself 24/7. And with a hard aspect, that is in a troublesome way. I have the same thing. I have my ascendant lord square Pisces like you, so I'm speaking from experience. You are going to get into circumstances where you will not be told what's happening. You will not be told what you've done wrong. You are going to have to reflect on that and put it back together afterward. But there's just going to be something that's off. And you have to trust that sense. You might be the weirdo, somebody else might be the weirdo who's trying to scam you, but things are just going to be weird, full stop. And you just have to respect your instincts. This is your Pisces, you know, you put your foot out, you go out there and you do things and you try things, but you just have to be very aware. Sometimes you're going to get a signal telling you get out as soon as possible. Get out now. Withdraw in the politest way you possibly can. And that is your cue to get out. And you know, that's kind of where you want to be. If you want to grow, if you want to be growing, you want to exist at basically the limit of that curve 24/7. You want to walk the edge of that thing. But you never want to cross over. You never want to be caught. You never want to be caught without an exit. So this is why you have to trust your instincts, because your instincts are smarter than you in some respects, in many respects. They will tell you things before you could consciously know them. And then afterwards, in the debrief and the deconstruction of what just happened, you will put it together logically. This is your Gemini square Pisces. You're a very logical guy. But in the moment, you don't have time for that. And indeed, sometimes you will need to believe something that is not true or not the whole truth for your own sake. You know, you will need to be sort of like what is called a Manchurian agent. That is somebody, it's, you know, hopefully you don't do this, but this is like a hypnotized, brainwashed assassin who needs to be brainwashed and unconscious of their true goal in order to get it, in order to get to it. And you know, in the stories, they have a trigger word and it awakens their killer instinct and they shoot the president or something. Not that you should do that. Don't ever do that. You heard it here first. Um, But yeah, you're just going to be, sometimes it is good to not know what is going on. Because if you know what is going on, you can become self-conscious about it and you can become anxious and you can start tripping over yourself. This is what I was saying at the very beginning about Pisces is you have to be a little retarded sometimes and just to embrace that. Let things come to you at their own pace. Don't try to comprehend the entire situation at once because that could be bad for you. This is Pisces as well. Info hazards, 2010s, again, internet, info hazards, that kind of thing. So, yeah. So, moving on with the museum story. This same situation, says Frank, has happened again and again and again in my life, only changing with the time and location, never the outcome. So, again, this is why I talk about traveling. When you're fucking stuck at the side of a road or something and you've got a loose tire and you need to call a tow guy and whatever, you will be having a social interaction that you didn't plan for. Okay, this is training. This is training for you. You will find yourself in circumstances where you have to, or perhaps want to, you see, I'm going to be moving on in 5 minutes, so yeah, I'll have a conversation. But you don't ever force things, and you recognize when things have reached their natural limit. And you will know that by your intuition, always. You will need to rely on your intuition, Frank. You will not make it otherwise. This is a skill you need to develop. So yeah, Frank goes on. At a bar, I see a cute girl, wow, looking at me. We make eye contact a few times, but I become nervous and look away. She is with a friend, and I don't want to embarrass myself by going up and trying to flirt with her. Well, let me tell you, Frank, embarrass yourself sometimes. It could be good for you. The other thing I will say is you will be surprised, and I don't want to give too much of the game away, but you will be surprised. And it's like a secret code, I understand, and there are very, very good reasons for this, but you will be surprised how much women are willing to give away. It may shock you. It may shock you. But there is a secret code, and it is sometimes often for the best that we don't know that secret code. And a lot of the interactions which could result would not be desirable or good for you anyway. And so, sometimes you just have to view your shyness as an instinctive modesty, as an instinctive awareness of which opportunities would be good or bad for you. It is not always bad to avoid flirting. Frankly, the only time I have successfully done anything like that was when I was not conscious that I was doing so. I walk around with this naivety and I say, I just want to talk to somebody. I want to talk to people. I want to put myself out there and hey, we're just being friendly. We're just being friendly. And then they come out and try and get in the car with me. Not that I don't like talking about this stuff. I have an instinctive modesty, but it's like point being, and frankly, looking back, if I had known oh dear, there's circumstances where you'll want something and it will be very painful to not get it, but it's for the best. It's for the best to avoid certain entanglements, let me tell you that. And even if it disappoints you and hurts you in the moment, accept it and just move on and try and learn what you can from it. And that's it. That's all I have to say on that. Hopefully you get the point. So what else have we got here? Another story from Mr. Frank Marilla. A woman once came up to me while filming people in the streets. Or you were filming people? Yeah, okay. A woman once came up to me whilst I was filming people in the streets and was interested in what I was doing, says Frank. She asked for my Instagram or where she could find some of my work, but I refused, saying that she would not find what I do interesting. Now, let me tell you something, Frank. Yes, this woman was hitting on you in the common parlance. Yes. Okay, they can show attention or they can not. And if they do, then it means they're. Yeah, and again, there's so many caveats with this stuff, and you can't be a retard, but just broadly, just understand they can choose to not show you attention. So if they are choosing to, it means something. Be subtle about this. Don't go crazy. You're not meant to go crazy. So anyway, yeah. You said you would not find what I do interesting. Let me tell you, Frank, as well. Okay, yes, yes, you could have allowed her to chat you up, and women will do this without looking like they're doing it, because if they look like they're doing it, they get tarred as a certain negative thing, as a slut or whatever, and it is absolutely in their best interests, and it's sensible for them to avoid that. All of this crazy stuff women do, there's a lot of reason behind it. There's a lot of good reasons, and I don't want to give the game away too much for women's sake and for everyone's sake, because this is the thing with Gemini square Pisces, and this is me and this is you. This is Gemini square Pisces. You might know what the game that's being played behind the overt and explicit game is, but you are not meant to say what it is, because if you say what it is, it stops existing. It can no longer be played. So you have to be quiet about some things. This is your Pisces. This is your Pisces social skills. And by the way, your seventh house, what about that? It's Aries, it's empty, it's ruled by Mars Pisces. That Mars Pisces is squaring the Venus Gemini. So yeah, your Venus is tied up with your seventh house. And it's not a lot. Seventh house here isn't that distinct from your Venus. So everything I've said basically applies for that as well. We're not missing anything. Rudd says, when will the nonchalant era end? Or are Zoomers cursed to perpetually strive to be these nonchalant cardboard fortresses? Let me attempt to interpret this somewhat obscure comment, Mr. Rudd. You're asking, are Zoomers going to be caught in a state of perpetual irony and fakery and half in, half outness, never fully committing, never really going there, and just living as ironic, semi human, semi existent drones? Well, Rod, that is up to them. That is, and I will connect this. This is your Sagittarius, your Pluto Sag. It's the irony, it's the shyness. This is your Zoomers. Anyone born between 1995 and 2008, that's your Zoomers. Pluto Sag is the shyness, and Neptune or Uranus Aquarius, that is your glassy, fake, happy mask that you cannot ever break. And there's upsides to that, and there's downsides. You know, millennials are Scorpio and Capricorn. They're repressed, they're disciplined, they're masterful, they're doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. But Zoomers are Sag Aquarius. They are ironic, they are distant, they are glassy and polite and civilized and robotic and zips in some ways. There's variants, but yeah, that's more what they are. Will they ever break out of it? Well, did millennials ever break out of their moronic habits? Did boomers ever break out of their moronic habits? It's up to each individual. You know, yeah, that's the challenge. That's the game for Zoomers, is how to be your fullest, craziest, wildest self. But it's only an exceptional few who ever do that, you know? And of course, we can always improve the common wheel. You know, I don't want to write off the common man. I don't want to write off the average person at all, because I have to live with the average person. I want the average person to be happy and talented and doing their best with things as well. But yeah, if people want to be ironic blobs of nothing for their entire lives, they will be. Again, the elder millennials, the 80s millennials, 84 to 88 born roughly, Uranus in Sagittarius, they've got to sit, they're the ironic ones. They're the ironic, kooky, crazy millennials with a wow, two guys with a dream started a burger shop or something like that. So they have a little in common with Zoomers, but I'm a Uranus cat millennial. That's a great, probably the best kind that you could be. So, you know, we 1988 to 1995 or so don't have that same irony. We've got other problems, excessively polite, rigid Capricorn type stuff. But yeah, it's up to each individual what they want to do with themselves. Anyway, got a question here from Alpha Beta. I have Pisces seventh house, and sometimes I play dumb to avoid women who try to hit on me because I don't want to reject them directly. And that's a very smart and socially skillful thing to do, Alpha Beta, and by extension, Frank also. Yeah, and this is what you might already be doing unconsciously. And Green Kirby is a Uranus cap too. Well done. Well done to us both. We deserve this. You deserve a pat on the back. And so do I. In any case, yeah, politeness. It doesn't always look like politeness. This for me with Saturn Pisces, because Saturn is how you're polite. And Pisces is just, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you know, you know. Saturn Pisces, it's like you are striving to be so polite that you do not even appear to be coming off as polite or condescending in any way. Bang. It's like this is Pisces. It's like Pisces is like, I am going to be the greatest possible version of this thing, and that will not look anything like most people think of this thing at all. That's the wizard, that's the genius side of Sag and Pisces, and so on and so forth. You are the thing, but you only look like it to those who are in the know. And and even if a girl does know, you're at least helping her save face. And that's very important, and she will appreciate it, even if your interaction does not go beyond that. This is not just girls, human beings. If you help somebody to save face, that's a good deed. I think that's a good deed. You want to be very clear about when you are harming someone's image, harming their reputation. And we all have one, whether we like it or not. We all have an image, and it matters for every one of us. So be conscious of when you are harming that. Sometimes it should be. If somebody's a scammer, they need to be called out aggressively and decisively. That's my Scorpio coming out there. But yeah, always, if you can, if somebody's an innocent, just help them to save face. And you will feel good about it too. So yeah, okay, we're almost at the end of Frank's little letter here. Okay, yeah. Frank says, I'm afraid to share my art or practice it in public. Afraid people will think I am weird or a pretentious faggot. Frank's words. Not mine. Not mine. Not out of narcissism or arrogance, but simply fear of what they will think. Well, look, man, here's the thing. Imagine if you held that view for your entire life. Your life would be shit. You would have an awful life. And just think of somebody else doing that. This is a good thing for Pisces. Think, what would it look like if it was someone else, And you'll find, logically follow it through. You're a Virgo, you're a Gemini, logically follow it through. You're just going to find that, yeah, nobody who lives out of that feeling can ever have a happy or a meaningful or a good, with a capital G, in the deepest sense, a good life. This is what Rudd was saying earlier. Are you going to be, you're a Zoomer, are you going to be ruled by other people's view of you? Or are you going, and believe me, I know how hard this is. I know how hard this is. I am ruled to a substantial extent by other people's view of me. I am scared of how I come off. But you've got to take that risk and face that fear and put yourself out there so that you can get the things that you really want and need out of life. So that you can have your art seen and appreciated by other people. And you're going to have a difficult time. People aren't going to understand it, all of them. You might get respect. Worst case scenario, and this was me on Twitter, you might get respect for something that you don't actually like doing. You might be trapped and cornered into liking something, doing something that you don't like, or acting like you like something that you don't like. But always come back to what makes you happy. And I understand it's a double-edged sword, Yeah, it makes you happy to be liked. Yeah, it does. We're human beings. It makes everyone happy to be liked. Unless they're perverse in the head, or, it's bad to be liked for the wrong reasons, but it's still kind of nice. But not worth it ultimately. You know what I mean? But still, yeah, what's the dream? You want to be doing exactly what you want, and you want to be liked and respected and paid for it in some way. That's been my journey. That's been my entire career from start to finish. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a writer. Nobody gave a fuck. I still have respect for my art, and I still think it's really good, and I love it, and I hope that one day people can like it, but right now they don't. Right now, I don't have, enough wind in my sail, or I didn't back then have enough wind in my sail to put that stuff out there for it to get the attention I felt it deserved, and for me to get that positive feedback. It just didn't happen. I happened to find astrology. I happened several years afterwards to find that people liked hearing me talk about it and that I had a talent for talking about it. Then I got popular for talking about it in the wrong way, in a way that didn't make me happy. It was good, but it didn't make me happy in the end. So I had to quit and disappear for a year or two and then come back and do this. And I really enjoy this medium a lot more. You know, if I can see 15 people watching or more, like, I'm very happy. I'm very happy. If I can be talking, and look, man, look, I even went in the other direction. I tried public speaking. I tried getting, to speak in front of people publicly. And I got to do that once, and it was the most thrilling and beautiful experience in my life. And I hope to God that I get to do it again someday. But until then, I'm on the internet. I can see 17 people, 16, oh no. Uh, and that's good. That's the best thing. That's the closest I've gotten to what I really truly want in a sustainable way in my entire life. And I'm very happy about it, and I'm very thankful for it. And as you get older and have more failures and get over them, you'll be more and more thankful for the successes. It's as simple as that. And again, yeah, it's just a matter of time and age to a great extent. But, you got to be trying your best the whole time. I have been, it's paid off. It's been very hard, but hopefully it pays off more. Bang, bang, bang. And I get the message out there even more. But, I'm very thankful at this point for 16 people, for whatever views I get. I am very thankful for it. As much as I am a greedy creature of ambition as a millennial. I want to grow. I want to grow uncontrollably and infinitely. But, I'm still also very thankful for what I get. And this has to be your attitude with respect to your art. Put it out there, man. Again, you have to meet the audience halfway, and that's going to be hard for you. But nobody ever said life was going to be easy. You can either do your own autistic little thing off in the corner and nobody sees it. That's easy. You can conform fully with what people want and be some soulless creature with a snapback and a trained radio voice and whatever crap like that. That's easy as well, pretty much. But meeting the viewer halfway, that's the hard thing. That's the really rewarding thing. And that's the thing that will get your value out into the world. Because as much as I'm a flawed person who's done bad things and done wrong in the past, I you can't let that stop you from trying to do something good. As much as you may be embarrassed about yourself or guilty or have done something wrong or anything like that, you can't let that stop you from trying to do something good in the world. So I will go back to your letter. More stories. Mr. Frank Marilla. After seeing Blue Velvet at a movie theater, I was outside smoking cigarettes and trembling because the film had moved me greatly. Well, again, if you can be moved by art, you can make good art. So put that in your hat, feather in your cap, put that in your pipe and smoke it. A man came up to me and complimented my boots afterwards. Oh. Without looking up, I blathered out a nonsensical remark and he quickly walked away. That is an appropriate reaction from him, but the appropriate reaction from you would have been thank you. That's very kind of you. Or, I'm not American. You guys, you have different ways of being polite. But for me, I would say, thank you, that's very kind of you. And then I might offer him a compliment in return. These things need to be reciprocal, then everybody walks away happy. You can do this with the cashier at the grocery, you know, and it's a talent to like things. I have trained myself to like things genuinely and to find things that I'm genuinely happy to compliment somebody on. If a woman at the grocery has nice nails, clearly they want to be complimented on their nails, they put time and money into them, effort, etc., uh, then you compliment her on her nails if you genuinely like them. And if you don't, then you wish them a nice day because you can wish anyone a nice day. You know, these are skills, these are little cliches that you can learn and pick up. So you just say thank you look them in the eye, you say thank you and say, thank you, have a nice day. It could be as simple as that. If you like something about them instantly, if you're taken with something about them, then you compliment that. Compliments, it's a very important skill. It's a very important skill. And delivering a genuine compliment, they have to be genuine or else you'll get caught out one day and you'll be embarrassed. So you have to make certain that you really believe what you're saying. Or, just if it's just casual, then, and if you don't know any better, then just wish them a nice day. And, this is another thing I would say about social skills is you have to learn how to save yourself from a fumble. Because when you have saved yourself, when you know how to save yourself from a fumble, you are going to be able to experiment that much more. So if you can politely excuse yourself from a situation, you're going to be able to get into weirder ones, you know? And if somebody gets mad at you, or they're like, they give you the cock eye or whatever, evil eye, that's just your cue to leave. That's not a penalty, that's just a warning. It's your cue to leave, and if you leave politely, there will be no penalty, and you will be embarrassed. I've embarrassed myself countless times, but every time I learn something and I get out clean, that's the important thing. Pisces is all about the clean getaway, the clean exit. I have a very dry mouth right now. I wish I knew what to do about that. Maybe that is my anxiety over speaking in public, but I'm going to overcome it. Wow, what an inspiring moment. You should all be very happy that you saw live, 12 of you now. There was 18 a moment ago. That would have looked a lot better if I said that. So, Rudd says, what is the point of complimenting people in public? Is it to make them feel better? The impulse just attacks me sometimes, and I can't understand its origin. Wow, Rudd, that's not, don't, you didn't hear that. I know this guy personally, and he doesn't care anyway. Do you, Rudd? Or else. See, what's the point of it? It makes you feel good. It makes them feel good. It makes you feel good about having good social skills. It makes you feel good about being accepted in your community. It makes you feel safe. People are fearful. The average person is very afraid of other people in general. So if you can deal with them nicely, that's power. And power feels good. Feels good to have. Social skills are power. They are power more than muscles could ever be. And it feels good to be fit, feels good to be powerful. I was a bodybuilder for a few years, here and there. But that's not power. Power is social, full stop. There is no other way of putting it. People are what you need to deal with, not objects, not the physical world. So yeah, man, if you get the impulse to compliment someone, do it. Yeah, it can be a bit weird, whatever, but who gives a hoot? You just do it? Who gives a fuck? Yeah. Do it. Trust the instinct. Follow your bliss. That's it. I'm getting a bit tired out here. I'm gonna wrap this letter up and wrap things up pretty soon. This has been a long show. Riding on the train, I overheard two girls my age talking about astrology. Interesting. I wanted to get up and speak with them, but refrained, and I sat writing in a notebook about how I wanted to speak to them but could not. Well, I've been there, man. Yeah, I've been there. At the age of 20, I was there. Um, would I talk to them now? I don't know. I mean, at this point, I might not even find the prospect interesting. Because what are they going to know about astrology? It's going to be some retarded Iggers thing. Instagram. Iggers is what I call Instagram. In any case, I got that from my good friend, who you will not meet or ever know the identity of. So, yeah, man, look, that's just part of growing up. Honestly, it's not something you really want to be worried about. It doesn't indicate any deep failure or weakness on your part. You're just growing up, and approaching people in public is weird. By default, it is weird. It is an exceptional, weird circumstance. You can get good at it. There can be reasons to do it, but by default, it's just not normal. I don't know how else you meet people. In terms of like, not with respect to that, but with respect to you being on the internet and meeting people on the internet. Look, that's how I generally have done it. I can talk to people in real life and stuff. I've trained myself to do it. But meeting people on the internet can be really good. All of my best friends I've met on the internet and met in real life and developed those friendships. And that is a Gemini square Pisces thing that anybody, including Rudd, who just commented, I'm doxing you, Rudd, whoa, um, anyone with Gemini square Pisces, you're going to have a weird dematerialized Pisces network, Gemini. So be open to that. It's fun. It's going to look weird. It's not going to look normal, but you take what you can get and develop it to the fullest extent possible. People look at me and they say, oh my God, Owen, how do you have all of these weird meetings with people from online? Totally chaste meetings. Don't get the wrong idea. How do you have all of these weird meetings with people online? Wow, that's so incredible. I never knew anyone who could do that. I did it out of necessity. I do it out of necessity. I don't have anything else. I've tried going to bars and meeting people. I've tried meeting people in other ways. I mean, God, what a grim thing it would be to go to a book club and to be surrounded by people who don't know anything attempting to look intellectual. What a grim thing that would be. Um, Meetups.com, the abyss of hell. Got better chance of meeting someone you'll like there. Um, and then the dating apps. God, that's just grim as hell. That stuff is just awful. So yeah, man, take what you can get and get it where you can, in terms of human interaction, because if you've got it, you've got it. And if it's, I don't want to be that weird guy who only knows people online, take what you can get, man. Really. It's like they're not handing it out on the street corner for everyone. Be thankful for the friends you do have and be honest when it's not working, but just be thankful for what you've got in any respect. Full stop. It can be very grim. I have been totally socially isolated at times. That is not anywhere you want to find yourself. And if you're there, hey, I've gotten out of it. I've gotten out of it. Uh, I got out of it. You just, yeah, but it's difficult. You don't ever want to have to get out of it. So yeah, what else have we got? And hey, that's the whole letter. Bang. And our handsome viewer, write-in contestant, Mr. Frank Marilla, says that he will go on a trip to New York City soon. So meet him there. Friends and viewers, meet him there. No, I won't tell you where it's going to be. That would be illegal and wrong, not to mention that as well. But yeah, okay. This has been a good show. I've been very happy with this. I hope you, viewers at home, are happy as well. Tune in. Don't forget my sale for 1 week only, at the link in the description. Send me an email. We'll organize something. It will be good. You'll enjoy it. Bye bye.